Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to take a look at a topic that I've wondered about quite a bit, and you sort of see dodgy answers on Reddit forums or other forums in general about whether it's okay to do this, and that would be, is it okay to spray paint your heat sinks on whether it be your motherboard, on your graphics cards, your CPUs, whatever the case is? Is that okay to spray paint your heat sinks? And if it's not okay, the argument of course is usually that the paint forms an insulating layer on the heatsink, and that actually prevents the heatsink from doing its job. So if it's not okay, how much worse are the temperatures that we're seeing from a spray painted heatsink versus a non-spray painted heatsink? So I aim to at least get a use case scenario out of this. I'm actually starting off this testing with a stock AMD heatsink running on an 8350, which is a fairly warm chip. So we'll see just what kind of temperatures we get before and after in AIDA64. And we'll hopefully come up with a little bit of a conclusion, because this is also a topic that I haven't really seen covered a whole lot on other channels. So let's go ahead and hop over to the testing so you can sort of see what happened here, and we'll come back for some closing thoughts. So for this paint job, I was actually attempting to match the colors of these two heat sinks that I painted with this Sabertooth 990FX board. It's from ASUS, and you'll notice that these earth tones are a little bit difficult to match. They're sort of brown colors. So what I went with was this Duplicolor engine paint, and the reason that I went with engine paint is for that high resistance to heat, which I would actually recommend because this stuff was not that expensive by any means. In fact, right now this paint on Amazon is just $13. So you probably do pay a little bit extra to get the engine paint with the higher heat resistance, but since it's going on a heat sink, I figured it can't hurt. These heat sinks aren't getting so hot that it might not actually affect normal paint, but just for the safety of it, I did go with the higher heat resistance. So this is the stock cooler that I actually started with. And this was, of course, just aluminum, and you can sort of see the contrasting color there a little bit better. But this was an aluminum heatsink, and this is the one that I ran my testing on in AIDA64, and I'll go ahead and throw up those charts now. But the takeaway here is that the temperatures virtually didn't really move at all. I saw virtually no difference, and being that I can't independently temperature control this room, I'm going to go ahead and call those temperatures virtually identical. I'm not really sure whether the room was slightly warmer or slightly colder for the test with the paint, but the end result was nearly identical. So then I went to the next level, and I painted the cooler that I normally leave on my 990FX system, my 8350 under there, and I think the results are quite good. I might actually change out the fan at some point. Actually, the normal Noctua colors would work pretty well with this whole color scheme, but this again was aluminum with copper heat pipes, and now of course it all virtually matches the RAM slots and some of these PCIe slots back behind as well. And then off camera, I did go ahead and run another AIDA64 test on this cooler, and of course it's a better cooler than the stock cooler, so temperatures were a little bit better on this cooler than they were on the stock cooler. But the takeaway here is that yes, you can in fact spray paint your heat sinks without sacrificing either a whole lot of performance or just very little performance may be sacrificed. I've got to believe there's a tiny bit of performance, but since I can't get extremely scientific, I just don't have the tools for that. All I can tell you with certainty is that yes, you can spray paint your heat sinks, and they'll still do a good job for the most part. The one thing I do want to close out with talking about these heat sinks is I made sure to tape off the actual contact point with the IHS. So this is left exposed, and same thing here. The copper heat pipes on this particular cooler are actually touching the IHS, so I left those intact as well. I did not spray paint over those, and that's what my recommendation would be as well if you're planning on doing something like this. Okay, so there it is. Before I forget, I will go ahead and post a link in the description down below to the exact spray paint that I used. Again, it's engine spray paint, so it has that higher temperature resistance. And a couple things that I want to mention about this. I am not saying that you should spray paint all of your radiators, all of your heat sinks on your motherboard. That's not at all what I'm getting to, and I'm not saying that there's paint out there that will not degrade, possibly even severely degrade your heat sink's capacity to dissipate heat. What I am saying is in this specific case, this type of paint did not degrade my heatsink's ability to get rid of the heat from the 8350. Now obviously a hotter chip that may already be running warmer than sort of in that 60-degree range, you're gonna want to take it with a grain of salt. But it seems to be reasonably okay, provided that you're not caking on the paint to the point that it is forming a thick layer between the metal and the air. But this particular paint did a good job, and I can't complain. So again, link for this paint down below. But of course, I do want to know your guys' thoughts on the matter. Have you ever spray painted, whether it be a heatsink, a heat spreader, or a radiator of some kind on your PC? Let us know down below. And of course, if you like this video, give it a like, share, subscribe, and comment. You can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at Hoosier Hardware. And as always, I'll let YouTube queue up a couple more videos around me from my channel for you to watch. I'm Shane with Hoosier Hardware, and I'll see you guys in the next video.